Hello boys and girls, this is Statutory Rape, and this video is a response to LaCountry Springs' topic on black women. I think that a lot of what was in the original statement about black women was more of a stereotype. There are a lot of feelings about this, and we'll get into all of this. The first thing is that a lot of what came up as the characteristics of black women are stereotypical. Yes, a lot of it happens to be true depending on the person, but you can't really paint all of black women in that category any more than you could paint black men in the categories of, being a thug or, those kinds of things. You can't paint everyone with a broad brush, and I think that a lot of black men use that as an excuse to look outside their race for companionships, and that's something that's interesting. I think that as black people, there is a bit of shame in going outside of your race because for so long it wasn't something that could be done. It was something that got you into trouble. It was something that could get you killed. And I think even in this, in the newer generations, which is odd, there's still that small area of shame, and black men use those excuses to justify their relationships with non-black women. Why you feel the need to justify your relationships, I'll never understand. You like what you like and you don't what you don't. And there are some black guys who truly feel that way. That dealing with black women is a bit of a hassle. And is a bit of a chore. And dating outside of their race is easier. Going into that, I do see with black women those characteristics, but it depends on the ones that you deal with, I think. I think that when you are dealing with anybody, anyone, no matter, regardless of their race, you're going to run into certain things that are characteristics of their race in a stereotypical way. But it depends on where you go. Obviously, if you, go down to the ghetto to look for black women, you're going to find a lot of chicken heads. And you know the ones I mean. You're going to find a lot of those. Does that mean that all black women are like that? No. But depending on where you go, you're going to find that. If you go to a business meeting for Fortune 500 members and you find some black women there, are they going to be the same way as the women that you found, in the projects? Probably not. Do you think Condoleezza Rice is that way? Probably not. Is Michelle Obama that way? Probably not. Is Oprah that way? Probably not. Not every black woman does that. I think it depends on the generation. I think it depends on the age. I think it depends on their background. It depends on a lot of things. However, I will say this. For those women who are like that, it may be harder for them to find a man. It may be harder for them to find a man that wants to quote-unquote put up with them. And that could be for anyone. If a white woman acted like that, it'd be hard. If an Asian woman acted like that, it'd be hard. If a Latino woman acted like that, it would be hard. Those aren't necessarily traits of a black woman. Those are traits of an undesirable person. Male, female, anyone. So on one end, you do have those women who really do act like that. There are some truths to that statement, but it only pertains to them. And then you have the other side of that, in which you have to take the men into consideration. And I think that that's something that doesn't really get mentioned too much when we get into that topic of, women, black women, it's hard to date them because they're loud, or they're this, or they're that, or they're very aggressive. What about the men who are saying that? What about them? Are we talking to business owners? Are we talking to drug dealers? Are we talking to, stay-at-home dads? What are we talking about here? What type of guy are we talking about? I think that makes a big difference. the guys that I have known who've said those kinds of things have often been guys who are just using that as an excuse to play into their own stereotypes about other types of women. There are a lot of black guys who think that dating a white woman is easier because they're more subservient and they don't argue as much and they'll do what you tell them. I've heard them say that a million times, and they're often guys who nobody really wants to deal with. They are guys often who black women have been taught to stay away from and avoid, and that is something interesting. I think that most black women have gotten that speech about the types of black men in which to look out for. And maybe not necessarily just black men, but men in general. However, black girls do grow up seeing the relationships between their aunts and, you know, men, and their mothers and men, and they're often black men. And they do get that speech about certain black men you want to look out for. You know, there are those guys who are deadbeat guys, and the guys who, you know, are more interested in running the streets than they are coming home to you, and, you know, all of these different types of things. And black women learn at an early age that some of those guys you want to look out for. And when you see the signs of those kind of people, you don't give them the time of day. And I think that a lot of these guys who purposely look outside of their race are those people. They are those people that a lot of black women give attitude to. And they don't want to hear anything that they have to say because they know the types of guys that they are because they've seen them all their lives and they can clock them from a distance. And I think that that's pretty interesting because a lot of those guys that I hear complain about that are those guys. And they go to, you know, an Asian woman or a white woman or something like that because they think that they're easier. They think that they're less hassle because they don't argue as much. And I think it's because a lot of those girls aren't used to the types of men that these guys are. I can't speak for other cultures and other races, but I have seen those types of relationships quite often in which, you know, an Asian or a white woman, they're not used to, you know, hood gangs. You know, they're not used to those types of things. And whereas they might be attracted to that kind of thuggish man or that kind of bad boy, they're not really used to those gangs. And so they're going to take a lot of stuff off of these guys. They're going to give them the benefit of the doubt. But it's not necessarily a race thing, I don't think, for the most part. Because those girls get sick of these guys too. It's just that they might not be well versed in the science of spotting these guys right off the bat. So these guys get a little more mileage out of a relationship with these girls than they would a black woman, because a black woman's used to it. And they've dealt with it enough times. So on this particular topic, there are a lot of factors that need to be weighed in on before one can make an appropriate decision, I think. We have to mainly look at the man who's saying those types of things, because that is the biggest determining factor, because we have to look into where he's finding these women. We have to look into the type of man that he is. We have to look into the type of relationship that he's expecting to get. Those are the things that I think that need to be asked and looked into, and oddly enough, rarely they ever are. I find it interesting that a lot of people take those stereotypes of black women as the gospel. Now often, depending on where you go, that's a lot of what you see, so they don't know any better. However, I think it ought to be common sense that every black woman isn't like that. We have to assess the types of people who believe that. I think that's where our attention should go. Once again, I want to personally thank LaCountress Springs for her amazing idea in inviting all the queens out there in internet land to participate and weigh in on the various topics that she presents. It's a great idea, and I hope to hear from more of you soon. I mean, what else do you have to do? And don't think I haven't been through your web history. I know what you've been doing. You know, you can browse for porn all day on the internet, but you can't make a video response. Bitch, get to work.